Watch and burn.
Hey everybody, so tonight I would like to discuss the 1990 film, Jacob's Ladder, starring Tim Robbins and Danny Aiello, and Elizabeth Pena is in this too, I believe. She plays Jezebel. Yeah, the reason that I wanted to talk about this movie is because I just watched Angel Heart again for the first time in a few weeks, and whenever I watch Angel Heart, I automatically think of Jacob's Ladder, and whenever I watch Jacob's Ladder, I automatically think of Angel Heart, because they're filmed roughly around the same time, and they have that same sort of film noir grit to them, except whereas Angel Heart felt like a proper detective story that was entrenched in satanic activity, this just feels like a full-on living nightmare. And of course, the first time that I saw this movie was like in the early 90s. I think I was in grade 6 or 7, a couple years after the movie was released. And this movie got me. I had no idea that Jacob Singer didn't do any of these things, that he hadn't lived an entire lifetime in his head in the moments before he died back in Vietnam on the operating table as the result of the BZ, the QNB, the deliriant, that the government, that the military fed his platoon to launch them onto the ladder where they just slaughtered each other. I thought that, his platoon had come under fire from the VC, but he survived, and then he went home, and he had to struggle with life like everybody else. But no, man, I mean, the movie starts off, like, with him getting trapped in the subway. That is, like, one of the scariest things that can happen to a person. Back when the Eastern Seaboard gave out, and the biggest power outage in the past, 40 years happened, back in the early 2000s, I was stuck on a subway when that happened. And the first thing I thought of was Jacob's Ladder. We had to wait for a service person to come down and then lead us out through a sewer, through the ladder, the rungs that they have down in the sewer that lead up through a manhole. That's how we had to get out of the sewer at the time, because the complete power outage that happened as the result of, I think it was the heat wave or whatever, and everybody had their air conditioning going, and we experienced that massive brownout that, like I said, took out the entire Eastern Seaboard. First thing I thought of down there was, man, I am in Jacob's Ladder. And it was kind of cool because I love this movie. But nevertheless, yeah, I mean, this movie is about hell attempting to strip away all of a person's hope right before they die. But then at the same time, the duality of it all is saying that hope is hell's final torment. If you can retain some semblance of hope, hell can't get you. Because, we look at places like hell, satanic places, things like that. They're hopeless. The people that are trapped there have no past, they have no future, they have no present. They're only existing to suffer in accordance to whatever the demons that run the place are choosing to torture them. Being forced fed on toads or some scary shit like that. But see, Jacob can't let go, and that's why hell is able to torment him this way, because he lost his son Gabe, played by Macaulay Culkin. He's in the movie for 2 seconds. He's killed before Jacob goes off to Vietnam. So Jacob can't let go of the earth because of the loss of his son. And like Danny Aiello says, he says that if you're holding on too tight, you'll see demons tearing your life apart. But if you just let go and you're ready to move on, you'll see that they're just angels freeing you from this earth. And that's what Jacob struggles with through the whole movie, is his inability to let go of everything that he holds dear, because he's completely unaware that it's already gone and that he's dying on the operating table in the jungles of Vietnam in some MASH hospital somewhere. I shouldn't have said hospital, just a MASH. MASH hospital is kind of redundant because Mobile Army Surgical Hospital, the word hospital's in there. And I did that because I'm retarded. But nevertheless, yeah, he can't let go. And this is tearing Jacob apart. Now, what else did I want to say? I loved how this movie has, admittedly, directly had a massive influence on the Silent Hill series of games. And you can see that, especially Silent Hill 2. That was apparently the game that had this, the biggest influence on any of the Silent Hill games. This one had the biggest influence on Silent Hill 2, which developers are now looking to ruin with that god-awful, hideous-looking remake. Or at least as of June 2024. By the time this video sees the light of day, no one's going to care about that anymore. It just, This actually, too, I just read a story a little while ago. I'm shouldn't say I read. I just watched a video on YouTube from the James Linker Experience, the guy that does Shredded Sports Science, about the Reddit lamp. And now a guy experienced an entire lifetime of living in one instant after receiving a head wound, after receiving a head injury, playing, I believe it was football. And that's what this movie is, basically, is Jacob holding on. He can't let go of the world. And so he's seeing demons everywhere, literally, like the old chick at the start on the subway, to all the people on the subway that pass the other subway that passes him by that almost hits him, and they're all staring out the window. Like, everything about this movie is wrong. I mean, when he gets his palm read from Lieutenant Van Buren from Law & Order, she's like, honey, you're dead. And that's because he is dead, and he's just unable to let go. But he does have Danny Aiello there as his guardian angel, who is helping him transition from the nightmarish purgatory that he's trapped in, and he's helping him transition into heaven, where he will be with his son Gabe again. So I love this movie because this movie has such a serious emotional weight to it. You really feel for Jacob Singer. And I also feel really bad for his girlfriend, Jezebel. Like, she was just there to kind of help destroy him. But I always felt bad for Jezebel because it felt like Jezebel genuinely cared about Jacob. And maybe that was her place in hell, was to sort of feel something for the people she's supposed to be tormenting. Because I always, like I said, I got the impression that Jezebel was really into him, even though she was in league with Satan. Hence her name being Jezebel. I felt really bad for her. I felt like there was a lot of sympathy poured out towards the character of Jezebel that nobody ever really talks about. Whenever they discuss this movie, nobody ever talks about his girlfriend. And how Jezebel, although she was demonic, she did genuinely seem invested in Jacob's well-being. It seems like when she saw the pictures of his family, it really hurt her. And when she tossed them into the incinerator, she wasn't doing it to torture him. She was doing it to sort of alleviate the pain that she was feeling herself by not being his family, by just being the girlfriend that came after the divorce that happened as the result of him and his ex-wife losing their son, Gabe. So I loved that too. What else did I want to say? No, yeah, this is scary as hell. Feels like a dream, and that's because it kind of is a dream. And the performances like Tim Robbins and Danny Aiello alone. Ving Rhames is in this. He plays one of his Vietnam buddies. And the acting is absolutely amazing. Jason Alexander, pre-Seinfeld, he plays their lawyer in this. He was great too. He's not in it much. But this movie is absolutely amazing. Like, in a word, I would say terrifying or captivating. Because there's something about the way it's shot that you just can't stop watching it until you figure out what's happening. And even once you've figured out what's happening, you want to go back and dig into it more and look into the backgrounds to see if you missed any scary shit happening, like I said, in the background of the movie, because you didn't exactly know what was going on the first time through. So this movie, it's one of those films that demands endless rewatches. But I should probably get out of here because the weather's getting worse. So I think I'm going to stop there. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for just about 8.5 minutes while I discuss the 1987 film, Jacob's Ladder. Like always, if you like this review or you like this movie, don't forget to go out and do something nice for somebody. But please, most importantly, never forget that the world is a way better place because you are in it. No matter what it is you're going through, just don't let go because it's going to get better. Have a good night, guys.